Hi, my name is Queasy and today I'll be showing you how to install a new virtual machine on your system. First we'll hit new. You'll be greeted with the welcome wizard. It's basically a follow through procedure, so you just click next on the relevant tabs. Here we'll be naming the virtual machine we'd like to create. In this case it will be Windows Server 2008. Here you have the list of operating systems you can choose from. We'll be using Windows, in the version Windows 2008. Hit next. Memory by default, the memory is set as 512 megabytes. Since this is the recommended base memory, depending on your system, you could either allocate more towards the virtual machine, or if you have a lower RAM on your host machine, the default might not be 512. But for the purpose of this tutorial, I'll leave it at 512 megabytes. Hit next. Right, the virtual hard disk. Yes, you'll select create new hard disk. Since this is our first time creating this virtual machine. Proceed with next. Right, you'll leave the option on VirtualBox this image. With the virtual machine disk, we'll use this if we was using VMware, or we had created a virtual disk using VMware, we would select the virtual machine disk. But since we are using the VirtualBox software, we'll create the VirtualBox this image. Hit next to proceed. Here are the storage details. I will leave this at dynamically allocate. Reason being, it is better to leave it at this option because it will use the hard drive space in the system and it will allocate it as necessary rather than having a fixed storage amount. So when that runs out, that'll be it. So we'll leave this as dynamically allocated. Hit next. So this is the file location and the size. For the purpose of this tutorial, I'll leave it at 20 gigs default. Hit next. Alright, basically you have a summary of what you created and you hit create. And you'll see your new virtual machine is added to the list. Alright, from here, hit start. Your Windows Server environment will come up. You'll be greeted with a welcome wizard for the first time since you're installing the actual ISO image of the operating system. So you hit next. Right here we will select where the ISO image is stored on the system. Well, I mounted my ISO files to virtual CD-ROMs. If you ever used an ISO manager before, like Magic ISO, you could create virtual drives and mount your images. That's what I did for this tutorial. So instead of choosing the file from a location, I have mine assigned to specific virtual drives. So as you can see, my drive is my G. My server is on my G drive. So I will proceed with next and start. The setup is rolling up the files to prepare it for installation. If you ever installed an operating system before, you know this usually takes a couple of minutes to do. So during the process, I'll probably pause and continue along the way to show you specific steps of the installation. So I'll pause right now and I'll continue at a later point. Alright, this is the install window for the Windows Server 2008. So here you'll be able to choose your language, time and currency format, and the keyboard and input methods. Alright, so everything here I'll leave it as is. For the time and currency, you could select your country. I'll leave everything as is for the purpose of this tutorial. Hit next and install now. Alright, here we are greeted with several versions of the operating system. We have the standard enterprise data center and the server core edition. For this tutorial, we will be going with the enterprise. To find out more information about the various types, you could probably go to the Microsoft site and find out information about them. But this I could tell you about this is like a command, and the enterprise and data center and standard is basically a graphical user interface you'll be using to operate the server. And these is basically command line, a command line installation. So you will select Windows Server 2008 Enterprise, hit next to proceed. Accept the license terms, hit next. Here, basically is whatever installation, upgrade or custom. Since this is our first time installing, as you can see here, upgrade, we can select it, the area is grayed out. So we'll hit custom. Alright, and here you can see the amount of allocated space for our operating system to be installed on. We have a bit of options here where we could create partitions. So basically, you could install all the server files on one partition and the other files on another partition. So let me just give you an example of how this will be. You hit new, I will change this to 10 to 40 and apply. Right. So here you can see I partition my drive, so I can install my server on one partition and other program files or application files on the other partition. So, but for the purpose of this tutorial, we will not be doing any partition, so I will delete my created partition and continue the install on the full 20 gigs unallocated space. So you hit next to proceed. basically the installation has begun. It will copy the files, then expand, then install the features, install the updates, and it will complete the installation. This usually takes a few minutes, so I will pause the video and continue later now. Okay, right. Upon first time running the Windows server after the reboot, you will be prompted to enter a user password or administrative password for the server. With passwords, I recommend that you create a strong password alphanumeric with some special characters, so that way it will be harder to figure out the password. We'll set something simple for the purpose of this video. It will be capital P @ double S W 0 R E. And now confirm that capital P @ SS W 0 R E. And I will create my password for the Windows server. Okay. And that was the last stage in installing the Windows Server 2008 virtual machine. It is now preparing my desktop. Okay, and that's it. That was the procedure of how to install Windows Server 2008 virtual machine. Thank you for viewing. The next video I will submit will show you how to install Active Directories and DNS on the Windows Server 2008.